Hare Krishna. Donc, on continue le Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita à New Jagannath Puri. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Donc, nous sommes... Je prends la marque-page. Donc, on lit ce Prabhupada Lilamrita tous les dimanches. Pour nous, c'est important parce que quand on lit toute la semaine les livres de Srila Prabhupada, les enseignements de Srila Prabhupada, et là, la différence, c'est que on a l'exemple de la personne Bhagavat. So we read every week. I mean, all week we read Srila Prabhupada's books and it's important. Merci, moi j'en ai deux comme ça. Si quelqu'un a soif, je prends. Merci. Donc, so we read every week Prabhupada Lilamrita. It's important because the whole week we read Srila Prabhupada's books, his teachings, and through this Prabhupada Lilamrita, we get different points. We get, of course, we got a historical point of view, or a point of view historique. We can see how we have to know for, I mean, most of us, we know the basic things, the basic general story, and even some know quite of the details. But let's say for newcomers, or even for us, it's always important to remember the story of this Krishna Consciousness Movement. Et aussi, c'est pour le point de vue historique. C'est important pour nous de comprendre l'aspect historique du développement de ce mouvement. And to see how Srila Prabhupada put into practice what he taught in his books. Et voir comment Srila Prabhupada mettait en pratique ce qu'il enseignait dans ses livres. And we read all like in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we read all the qualities Krishna describes, the qualities of this devotee, of his pure devotee. And if we analyze every quality, we will, and in regard to Srila Prabhupada, we will see it manifest perfectly. Comme dans le 12e chapitre de la Bhagavad Gita, on a dans le chapitre le service de dévotion, Krishna décrit en longueur les qualités d'un dévot. Et si on analyse chacune de ces qualités, eh bien on verra comment elles sont présentes en Srila Prabhupada. Et it's not theory. When you read Prabhupada Lilamrita, you see how Prabhupada was patient, how he was tolerant with all these hippies. Now we are just in the middle of it, San Francisco, you know. You know, one thing about hippies and about this kind of people, you know, one thing you cannot stop when you are next to them, it's their smell. So Prabhupada, we used to be from a very aristocratic family in Calcutta. You know, you had to live with bad-smelling people. You know, and you know they would not take a bath in a week or 2 weeks sometimes. So that's just one thing, but so many things. So let's read now. Donc voilà, Srila Prabhupada était par exemple la tolérance, voir comment il manifestait la tolérance, la patience. Quand on sait que les hippies par exemple, ce genre de personnes, en tout cas de l'époque, une chose qu'on ne peut pas arrêter, c'est leur odeur. Et Prabhupada vivait en contact avec des gens comme ça. He was even living with such people, you know. Prabhupada vivait même dans les chambres avec des gens comme ça. Partager la même chambre, le même frigidaire, the same fridge with the meat for the dog. And he had to keep his, I don't know, his butter or something, same fridge, which would have horrified Orthodox Brahmanas. You know, they would have said, finished. Prabhupada that was just the start. Prabhupada didn't change, but he changed the people. He was so so strong. Prabhupada n'a pas changé ses habitudes, mais il a changé les habitudes des gens, et pas juste d'une ou deux personnes, mais de milliers et de milliers de personnes. So it's quite important. And also it gives us, when you read this Prabhupada Lilamrita, it's important also for us to remember how Prabhupada, what was his techniques to preach, to develop this movement, so that we follow in the footsteps. We are reminded over and over again, because things have a tendency to be forgotten, and we missed sometimes. Prabhupada said we can invent new ways, but still the basics have to be there, and the model has to be there. And, you know, even Prabhupada was saying that when he was in the beginning in New York, he would take the bus. Sometimes he would just pay a fare, a bus fare, and he would travel for 2 hours in the bus, just looking around, you know, how they're living, these people, you know, what are their habits, and, you know, how to preach better to them. C'est aussi un autre point, c'est que de voir aussi comment Prabhupada a prêché, et les techniques qu'il a utilisées. Certaines sont basiques et on devra toujours les garder, comme chanter, danser, pracharam, philosophie. Et puis après, il y a plein d'autres façons de développer cette... de reach out, comme ils disent maintenant. On ne dit plus prêcher maintenant, on dit reach out. So, d'aller jusqu'aux gens et de créer un pont pour les ramener, pour les attirer à la conscience de Krishna. So that's why it's very important to read every week. Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. Okay, so I'll take by chance maybe. Yeah. Several weeks later, Wayne asked about initiation. When the devotees told him he should go up and see the Swami, Wayne went home and rehearsed his lines first, anticipating what Prabhupada would say. Wayne prepared his own responses and contrived the whole conversation. Then nervously approached Prabhupada's door. Après plusieurs semaines, Wayne voulait être initié. Lorsque les dévots lui dit « Va voir le Swami en haut », Wayne est rentré d'abord chez lui et il a répété son texte. Anticipant ce que Prabhupada lui dirait, il a préparé ses propres réponses et il a préparé toute la conversation. Puis nerveusement, il a approché la porte de Srila Prabhupada. So you can already imagine, many devotees have this story, imagining what they would say when they enter Prabhupada's room, and usually what happened? What happened when they entered Prabhupada's room? Usually the devotees thinking, you know, getting their second initiation. They would forget everything. Forget everything. And it would never happen as they had planned. No. En général, ça arrivait très souvent que les dévots, avant d'aller voir Srila Prabhupada dans sa chambre, ils préparaient tout un scénario, ils préparaient tout ce qu'ils allaient dire, et quand ils rentraient, ils oubliaient tout, tellement ils étaient nerveux, et ça se passait jamais comme ils planifiaient. But before he could even knock, the door opened. And there was Prabhupada looking at him, not sternly as in his pictures, but kindly, as if expecting him. Yes, Prabhupada said, come in. The incident completely shattered Wayne's planned approach. He concluded that Swami could read minds. So trying to clear his mind of bad thoughts, he entered Prabhupada's apartments. Prabhupada sat in his rocking chair, and Wayne, who usually sat on the floor, sat in the only other chair in the room. Wayne immediately felt uncomfortable as he realized that it would be more proper to sit at Prabhupada's feet. But feeling too weak-hearted to alter the situation, he kept his seat, nervously fingering his sports cap. Swamiji, he began, I would like to be your disciple. Je vais résumer un petit peu. Donc il est entré dans la chambre de Prabhupada, et avant même qu'il rentre, en fait, Prabhupada a ouvert la porte. Il lui a dit oui, tu peux rentrer. Et il était très nerveux, il est rentré. Et Prabhupada s'est assis sur sa chaise à bascule, comment on dit ça? Chaise rocking chair. Et puis il y avait une autre seule chaise dans la pièce. Il s'est assis sur cette chaise. Et puis il a réalisé tout de suite qu'il n'aurait pas dû s'asseoir là. D'habitude, il s'asseyait toujours sur le sol. Mais il n'osait pas changer la situation et il est resté là nerveusement sur sa chaise. Et il a dit, Swamiji, je voudrais devenir votre disciple. Prabhupada immediately agreed. He asked whether Wen could follow the four principles. And Wen, although not even sure what the four principles were, said he could. Prabhupada then asked him what principle was the most difficult for him to follow. Well, he said, I have difficulty with meditating. A lie. Prabhupada immédiatement accepta. Il demanda à Wen s'il suivait les 4 principes. Et Wen, même s'il n'était pas vraiment sûr de ce que c'était que ces principes, a dit qu'il pouvait. Alors Prabhupada lui a demandé lequel de ces principes pour toi est le plus dur à suivre. Et il a dit, bon, je pense que c'est le fait de ne pas manger de viande. Un mensonge. He was a vegetarian. But he was too shy to say that his real problem was uncontrolled sexual desire. Prabhupada laughed. Oh, that's no problem. We'll give you prasadam. You can be initiated next week. Prabhupada a ri. En fait, il était végétarien déjà, c'était un mensonge, mais il était trop timide pour dire que son vrai problème, c'était la vie sexuelle incontrôlée. Prabhupada a ri. Oh, ce n'est pas un problème. Nous allons te donner du prasad. Tu peux t'initier la semaine prochaine. When then asked if he would be able to go to India, he felt the Swami would be pleased to hear that his new follower wanted to go to his country. But Prabhupada seemed displeased. India? Why India? When thought, the real reason he had wanted to go to India was to find a guru. Well, he said, to learn Sanskrit. I will teach you Sanskrit, Prabhupada replied. So there was no need to go to India, and he would be initiated by a genuine guru next week, right here in San Francisco. Donc, Wen demanda s'il pouvait aller en Inde. Il pensait que Swamiji serait content que son nouveau aspirant disciple veuille aller en Inde, visiter son pays. Mais Prabhupada semblait mécontent. L'Inde, pourquoi l'Inde? Wen pensa qu'en fait, la vraie raison pour laquelle il voulait aller en Inde, c'était pour trouver un gourou. Et il a dit, en fait, j'aimerais apprendre le sanskrit. Je t'apprendrai le sanskrit, Prabhupada a répondu. Mais tu n'as pas besoin d'aller en Inde. Et donc, il serait initié, en fait, par un gourou authentique la semaine suivante, là, ici à San Francisco. Some devotees helped Wen prepare for his initiation ceremony. Agriva lent Wen his dhoti, a piece of yellow cloth, much too large for Wen. Devotees set up a sacrificial arena in the storefront, a bed of earth, firewood, colored dyes, flowers. Les dévots aidèrent donc Wen à se préparer pour l'initiation. Agriva lui prêta son dhoti, un morceau de tissu jaune beaucoup trop grand pour lui. Et les dévots préparèrent un feu de sacrifice dans le magasin, avec un peu de terre, du bois et des poudres colorées, des fleurs. During the ceremony, Wen was nervous. When Prabhupada chanted the mantras, Wen could not hear them exactly, so he just mimicked as best he could. And when Prabhupada began the fire sacrifice, Wen felt a little frightened because the initiation seemed such a serious commitment. He watched Prabhupada gravely building the fire and saying the mantras. When Prabhupada initiated Wen with his new name, Upendra, Wen didn't hear it clearly and began to worry. Then the ceremony ended, and Prabhupada stood up and abruptly left the storefront. Donc, durant la cérémonie, Wen était nerveux et quand Prabhupada chantait les mantras, il ne pouvait pas vraiment les répéter, alors il faisait juste un semblant, autant qu'il pouvait avec ses lèvres. Il est devenu un peu effrayé parce qu'il a compris que l'initiation c'était quelque chose de sérieux et donc il a regardé Prabhupada qui, très grave, mettait le bois sur le feu et disait les mantras. Et quand Prabhupada lui a donné son nouveau nom, en fait il n'a pas trop compris, Upendra, il n'a pas bien entendu. Et puis la cérémonie s'est arrêtée, Prabhupada s'est levé abruptement et a quitté le magasin, la boutique. Upendra. Someone reminded me that I should go upstairs and give Swamiji an offering. So I decided to give him a baby blanket and a beach towel. It wasn't that I lacked money, but these things had some sentimental value to me. So I wanted to give them to Swamiji. I went upstairs to his room, and he was sitting at the foot of his mattress. I came in and bowed down and presented him with the baby blanket and beach towel. He held them in his fingers and looked at them both in each of his hands. He said, "These things are useless." And he tossed them down on the floor. I was hurt, and I had nothing to say. I just sat there. After a while, I excused myself and went back to my apartment. The next day, I went to see Swamiji during his evening visiting time, and he had the beach towel and baby blanket out on the floor like rugs, so that his guests who came to visit would have something to sit on. I felt satisfaction that he had found some use for my offerings. Donc il s'est rappelé qu'il fallait faire une offrande après l'initiation, alors il est monté dans la chambre de Srila Prabhupada et il a amené avec lui une couverture pour les bébés et une serviette de bain. Et il les a offerts à Prabhupada. Et Prabhupada, il l'a pris dans ses mains comme ça et puis il a dit « inutile, complètement inutile, useless ». Il les a jetés sur le sol. Il était blessé un peu. Mais le jour suivant, quand il est revenu dans la chambre de Prabhupada, il a vu, la serviette et puis la petite couverture qui était étalée sur le sol pour servir, pour que les visiteurs puissent s'asseoir. Il était satisfait que Prabhupada avait trouvé une utilisation pour son offrande. Prabhupada said that Upendra was not living up to his vows since he was still living with his girlfriend. Upendra felt guilty about breaking the principles forbidding illicit sex and intoxication, but he just couldn't follow them. He wanted to tell Swamiji, but couldn't bring himself to do it. Besides, he thought, even if he confessed, how could he stop? Upendra's girlfriend didn't like Krishna consciousness, didn't want to meet Swamiji, and didn't want to come to the temple. So Prabhupada decided that instead of marrying Upendra to her, he would save Upendra from her. Prabhupada decided to make Upendra a brahmachari. Although Srila Prabhupada had about 25 San Francisco disciples, hardly any were brahmacharis. Practically the only solid one was Jayananda, who was a little older than the rest. Jayananda worked all day driving a cab, chanting Hare Krishna even while driving. And when he was off work, he would be at the temple cooking or doing any service he could find, or sitting with Prabhupada in his apartment with the other devotees. He was known for his serious japa, sitting cross-legged, eyes squeezed tightly shut. He would hold his strand of beads up in both hands and rock forward almost to the floor and back, chanting intensely, oblivious to the outside world. He was serious, and that was the only way one could remain a brahmachari. In New York, Prabhupada had about a dozen brahmachari, but a more permissive attitude among his followers in San Francisco made brahmachari life more difficult. Donc Prabhupada a dit que c'était pas bien après son initiation que Upendra en fait il vivait pas selon ses vœux parce qu'il vivait avec sa copine encore, sa petite amie qui n'aimait pas Krishna et qui n'aimait pas Swamiji, qui n'était pas attiré à la conscience de Krishna. Donc Prabhupada il a décidé plutôt que de marier à sa petite amie, il allait plutôt faire de Upendra un brahmachari. Donc le premier brahmachari de San Francisco, parce que, enfin un autre dévot solide, il dit c'était Jayananda, le fameux Jayananda, qui lui conduisait son taxi toute la journée, chantant avec Krishna, et il chantait hyper concentré ses tours, c'était la seule façon d'être un brahmachari. Et donc à New York, il avait une douzaine de brahmacharis, c'était plus strict. Le temple de New York, il était connu comme le temple strict, et San Francisco, c'était un peu plus loose. C'était plus difficile d'être brahmachari à San Francisco. In the original Vedic society of ancient India, brahmachari life began at the age of 5. Parents would send their son to live with the guru at the Gurukul, where the boy would receive basic education, spiritual instruction, and strict moral discipline under the guru. Even Lord Krishna, in his transcendental pastimes on earth, had attended the Gurukul and very humbly served his spiritual master. Donc dans la société védique, l'Inde ancienne, le brahmacharya commençait à l'âge de 5 ans, où l'enfant était envoyé au Gurukul, et même Krishna lui-même était dans ses divertissements transcendantaux sur la terre, était allé au Gurukul et avait servi son gourou, Chandipani Muni. The basic principle of brahmachari life was celibacy. By practicing celibacy, the brahmachari would develop great powers of memory and sensory control. And if such a trained brahmachari later decided to take a wife, his sex life would be regulated, not licentious. But although brahmachari life was necessary for a healthy society, Prabhupada had seen within his own lifetime the rapid deterioration of brahmacharya almost to non-existence. Donc les brahmacharis, par la pratique du célibat, donc développaient des grands pouvoirs surtout de contrôle des sens et de mémoire. Et même si un brahmachari plus tard, après son entraînement en tant que brahmachari, décide de se marier, il va pouvoir vivre une vie de grihastha réglée. Mais Prabhupada, il avait vu que même en Inde, ce principe se détériorait. Donc, so we can see how Prabhupada introduced brahmacharya in San Francisco during hippie time. So that was really revolutionary. Prabhupada introduit le principe du brahmachari à San Francisco pendant l'époque des hippies. And in America, the situation was of course much worse. Srimad Bhagavatam tells of a young Brahmana, Ajamil, who fell from spiritual life because he had seen a drunken man embracing a half-naked prostitute. In America, to see a half-naked prostitute in public was not uncommon. As soon as a brahmachari walked out on the street, he would confront so many allurements. But Prabhupada was convinced that brahmachari could protect themselves even in America if they regularly chanted Hare Krishna and sincerely tried to follow the rules and regulations. Krishna would protect them. Donc il y avait l'histoire d'Ajamil en Inde où simplement il avait vu une prostituée embrassant un Shudra dans la rue et ça l'avait tellement perturbé qu'il avait dévié de sa vie spirituelle. Mais en Amérique, évidemment, chaque fois qu'un brahmachari sortait dans la rue, il était confronté à des situations très dérangeantes. Mais Prabhupada avait confiance que même en Amérique, eh bien, si les dévots chantaient Hare Krishna et suivaient sincèrement les principes régulateurs, Krishna les protégerait. Ensuite, then Upendra became Prabhupada's servant. His first servant, practically. No, it's not the first one, but almost the first one. So maybe we can discuss a little bit, following this, how Prabhupada, what are the principles that Prabhupada introduced, which cannot be changed, and which thing we can, because Prabhupada said we should tax our brain to find new ways to instill Krishna consciousness in the public, and keeping the basis always there. So peut-être on peut un peu discuter maintenant, si vous voulez quelques minutes là, qui restent, comment Prabhupada il a demandé qu'on se taxe, réfléchisse profondément sur la façon dont on pouvait trouver des nouvelles façons d'instiller la conscience de Krishna dans le mental émoussé des matérialistes, en même temps tout en suivant donc des règles et des principes de base qu'on ne pouvait pas changer. So, what would be, you think, the principles that the principles or the techniques that we cannot change, which should always be there in our personal life and in our preaching life? Qu'est-ce que vous pensez qui devrait être les pratiques, qui devraient être les techniques, qui devraient être toujours présentes dans notre vie personnelle et dans notre technique de prédication? Some are obvious, of course, but if you can share.
Of course, there's 4 eggs,
Yeah.
16 rounds.
Yeah. D'abord, bien sûr, les 4 principes et les 16 tours. Prabhupada, dans pratiquement, in every letter he wrote to his disciples, he would repeat this point. And also he mentioned, I should not say this, but he mentioned Mangalarti. Never there. But he mentioned Mangalarti, chanting 16 rounds, following the 4 regulative principles. Anything else he would mention quite often in his letters?
Read Bhagavatam.
Lisez le Bhagavatam. Donc, okay, let's see, we are chanting 16 rounds, I guess all of us, following the 4 regulative principles, you know, we strive to do it as much as, you know, like physically, mentally, as much as we can. And reading Bhagavatam, do we do it every day, all of us? Oui? On lit tous le Srimad Bhagavatam? Oui, c'est bien. Non? Pas toujours. Des fois on oublie. Combien de temps Prabhupada voulait qu'on lise les livres chaque jour? How much time Prabhupada wanted us to read the books every day? 2 hours. Okay, raise your hand if you do this. 2 hours every day. I think it's very rare. I saw a Prabhupada memory, and there is a Mataji, and you know, she's very sincere, she's living in Vrindavan, and she said, yeah, Prabhupada's book, and she says, you know, Bhagavatam I read 14 times, or I don't, Chaitamita, she said a number, I don't remember, 20 times, so it blew my mind, you know, how I can do, she has done this in les mémoires de Prabhupada. Il y a une disciple qui vit à Vrindavan, une disciple de Prabhupada, je ne sais pas si elle est toujours vivante, mais disait, parlait des livres de Prabhupada, elle disait oui, donc elle parlait des livres, elle disait, bon, j'ai lu au moins, je sais plus, 15 fois ou 30 fois le Srimad Bhagavatam entier, je ne sais plus combien de fois, de dizaines de fois le Chaitanya Charitamrita. Personally, I read only once Srimad Bhagavatam from beginning to end, and once really from beginning to end Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then, you know, I like to read here and there, but je ne sais pas vous, hein, tout le monde a peut-être lu tout le Bhagavatam, bon, il n'est même pas fini de traduire en français. So Prabhupada said 2 hours every day. He said, and even he said that if you don't read this much, you will fall down. I think he said this, huh? If you don't read my books. So the class is there, but also we have to take some time to read. Alors ça, c'est vraiment, oui, vous avez raison, ça, c'est des principes qui doivent être toujours là, dans la vie de chaque dévot. What else?
Preach, he said that you have to
Okay, we have to share, preach. On prêcher, on peut dire maintenant, on utilise beaucoup aussi le mot, we use the word share today also, partager. Ça passe très bien hein, quand vous faites un programme et que vous dites aux gens, alors vous dites pas merci d'être venu pour vous faire prêcher, mais vous dites pour ce partage. Les gens aiment bien, ça veut dire partager, ça veut dire il y en a un qui donne, l'autre il reçoit, l'autre il donne, l'autre il reçoit. Dadati pratiginati, bhunte, bojate cheva. Et celui the next line, that's the one I'm searching for. Diginati, Guyam, Akyati, Plechati. Se révéler, Guyam, ça veut dire, c'est les principes donnés par Rupa Goswami. Guyam, ça veut dire secret, ça veut dire intime. Donc on doit révéler son mental intimement et intimement recevoir les pensées intimes. Alors ça, c'est qu'avec les dévots. C'est des principes qu'il ne faut pas faire avec les non-dévots. Il faut juste donner avec les non-dévots, mais il ne faut pas recevoir. Par exemple, Dadati, Pratiginati, on leur donne la connaissance. On peut recevoir leur donation, mais pas pour nous, pour Krishna. Et donner de la nourriture, mais en général, pas prendre de la nourriture qu'eux ont cuisinée, par exemple. Donc ça c'est important, yes. Preaching, sharing, what else? Basic things now, we're talking about the basic things we should all do.
Ascète.
Hein?
Ascétisme. Ascète.
Okay, I think ascétisme, austérité, what kind? Plus particulièrement, parce que Prabhupada, une fois, I'm reminded of one pastime of Prabhupada went on a morning walk, and he was Tamal Krishna Maharaj and our disciples were there, And after walking a few meters, he saw Tamal Krishna Maharaj, like jumping a little bit, like dancing. And he said, what are you doing? And he saw he had forgotten his shoes, and it was stony, the stones on the floor, so he was trying to avoid it. And he forgot his shoes in the car. Prabhupada said, what are you doing? And he said, I forgot my shoes, but it's okay. No, Prabhupada said, go. We're doing enough austerities. Go and put back your shoes. You don't need to do extra austerities. Donc, il avait oublié une promenade du matin où un jour Tamal Krishna Maharaj, il suivait Prabhupada avec les dévots, ils étaient sortis de la voiture et puis Prabhupada a vu Tamal Krishna Maharaj qui peut comme ça très sauter en marchant. Et il a vu qu'il était pieds nus, il dit qu'est-ce que tu fais là sur les cailloux? Il a dit oh j'ai oublié mes chaussures dans la voiture, mais c'est ok, c'est pas Prabhupada il a dit va mettre tes chaussures, on fait assez d'austérité comme ça. So I think maybe the 4 regulative principles it's quite austere already, but there is one austerity extra that Prabhupada quite preached often in his book. Vous vous rappelez une austérité spécifique que Prabhupada mentionne dans ses livres?
Only take Krishna Prasad.
That's not an austerity. Only take Krishna Prasad. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Éviter les choses qu'on prend comme ça et on dit Shri Vishnu et puis voilà, bon, c'est pas terrible. Non, he often speaks about, when he speaks about austerity, he speaks about Ekadashi. Quite often he mentions Ekadashi Prabhupada. Souvent quand Prabhupada parle de faire des austérités, il mentionne Ekadashi, vous avez remarqué. Jeûner tous les 11 jours après la nouvelle et la pleine et la nouvelle lune. Mais il n'a pas forcément forcé les dévots à faire, pousser les dévots à faire nirjal, c'est-à-dire jeûner complètement sans eau, sans nourriture. Déjà le basique c'était pas de graines, pas de céréales. Et chanter plus. L'idée c'était de chanter plus. C'était pas, pour Prabhupada, l'idée c'était toujours faire plus, s'engager plus dans la concentration. Okay, I think maybe that's the basis. Of course, there is another thing Prabhupada mentioned, and if you see Rupa Goswami's instruction in Lilamrita, more or less the same. One thing we should all strive to get in our life, to live with devotees, in the association of devotees. Live in association of devotees. No? That's also one basic thing we should strive for. Prabhupada said, we are a social animal, he said, about human beings, and if we don't live with devotees, we will try to get, if we don't get good relationships with devotees, if we are not satisfied with our relationship with devotees, we'll try to find relationship elsewhere. So we should make friendship with devotees. If we're always alone in a corner of the room, in a corner of the temple, or even if we are sitting with devotees, but in our mind we feel alone, lonely, and our only relation with devotees is Haribol, Prabhu, Haribol, how are you? Yeah, I'm fine. Si c'est notre seul, donc Prabhupada a dit l'homme est un animal social et si on n'a pas de relation satisfaisante avec les dévots, alors on cherchera ces relations avec avec des non-dévots, avec ce qui sera disponible. Prabhupada a dit, nous a encouragé à développer des relations. Il dit, Prabhupada said, I made this movement to facilitate the 6 kinds of exchanges amongst devotees. Prabhupada a dit, j'ai fait ce mouvement pour faciliter les 6 sortes d'échanges que donne Rupa Goswami, donner de la nourriture, recevoir de la nourriture, révéler ses pensées, recevoir les pensées d'autrui et offrir des cadeaux et recevoir des cadeaux. Il a dit j'ai créé ce mouvement pour faciliter ces relations. And the devotee is always looking for the company of another devotee. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, whose appearance was yesterday, said that in the beginning he wanted to speak about Krishna, but he said he felt quite alone to do this, and he said he felt very blessed that Krishna sent him so many disciples with whom he could speak about Krishna Katha, So it's a blessing. We should also try to speak about Krishna, about what we're reading when we are with devotees. Essayer de parler quand on est avec les dévots, de dire qu'est-ce que tu lis, Prabhu, qu'est-ce que vous êtes en train de lire en ce moment. Usually when we ask this question, we have to really, sometimes, we have to, what am I reading these days, No? it's good to read sections of books and like trying. There is different ways to read. We can read and just go through pages like this. It's good also to have quantity, and we can read also sometimes like only 1, 2, few pages and try to go deep in every sentence that we read. I think even in the Christianity world, they have this technique of meditative reading. Like and when you do this, you see how Prabhupada's purpose, they are so deep that it's just incredible. It's non-human. How could somebody write so perfectly, the purpose? So deep, it's like every sentence, it's like, if we go over them, and if we were asked, what was the last sentence you read, we cannot even say. No, usually, many times, we read, and we don't even, know what was the last sentence, what was it about, no? So when we read and we meditate, and we can try like this. Personally, I like to read, like for instance, the Bhagavatam purport, and I usually when Prabhupada gives his purpose, he's like referring to almost every sentence is referring to another shloka somewhere. No? And try to think of, what Prabhupada refers to, and sometimes yes, this is from Bhagavad Gita, and we take the Bhagavad Gita, we try to find the verse, and we see, the verse and the purpose in relation to this verse, and it's like deepening, and then we go to the next sentence. That's also a good thing. Donc, et puis après, il y a tous les moyens de prédication. So this I think every devotee now can find his place in this movement, because there is so much scope for every talent, every talent, we could say. Donc maintenant, pratiquement tous les dévots peuvent, pour ce qui est de comment partager ce mouvement, tout le monde peut trouver sa place dans ce mouvement, parce qu'il y a tellement de façons de prêcher, tellement d'activités, qu'on peut tous trouver quelque chose qui correspond à notre talent, ou ce qu'on sait faire, ou ce qu'on aimerait faire. Prabhupada would, sometimes devotees would approach Prabhupada and say, Prabhupada, what do you want me to do? And Prabhupada would say, sometimes he would say, no, what do you want to do for Krishna? Des fois, les dévotés s'approchaient Prabhupada et disaient, qu'est-ce que vous voulez que je fasse, Prabhupada? Non, Prabhupada disait, qu'est-ce que tu veux faire pour Krishna? So as long as it is like in relation to pushing this movement in an authorized way, why not? So we have to do the needful also, but why not trying to be innovative and engage, something exciting in life, something exciting, why our spiritual life should be boring, it's exciting, you go to preach, you open a small center, and exciting to see people coming and talking with the people, and like we had last week, we had in a restaurant, we do every Friday, we do evening kirtans, So for the last 2 weeks, there is one new lady coming, and she looks like, you could say the first time I saw, she looks like New Age woman, a little bit like in her 40s or something, and like this Friday, she danced in the kirtan, with the devotees in ecstasy. And after my wife spoke to her, during Prashadam, and she said she is a teacher in university next to the restaurant in Les Tanneurs, where Gandharvika, I think she went to this university. My daughter went very short, but she went there. So it's a big university in Tours, one of the most famous. And she's a teacher for high grade, in University of French literature, and I don't know what else, So you can imagine you go to the university, or your kid goes to this university, and you know that the teacher is somebody who is dancing in the kirtan. You'd be happy, no? So it's exciting, to see like the movement spreading like this. So we should find new ways. Okay, so today is the last day of the year. I think there is a program, special prashad, and you can also test the famous bûche de Noël de Radhasaki. She gave a donation of bûche de Noël for prashad. Any announcement, Prabhu, for today?
No, the schedule is outside on the reception, so devotees can. Okay. Kirtan till midnight or something.
Kirtan. is the main program, chanting Hare Krishna. And Prasadam, of course. When we are little tired, Prabhupada, when we are tired of chanting and dancing, Prabhupada said, take little Prasadam. And there is special Prasadam. I read special Prasadam for lunchtime and special Prasadam evening time.
I mean, there will be something for lunch, but it's not going to be a big feast.
Okay.
And,
something tonight.
yeah.
And Kirtan.
Most of the feast is tonight.
And next week is the Sankirtan festival.
Yes.
Next week.
Puis
La semaine prochaine, dimanche, le festival de Sankirtan pour tous les héros du Sankirtan. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, Prabhu. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premanandi.
Sundar Gopal Prabhu ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.